Hello, this will be a demonstration of Proposition 11 from Book 5 of Euclid's Elements, which says that ratios that are the same with the same ratio are the same with one another. What we are thus given is that A is to B just as C is to D, and that C is to D just as E is to F. So these two ratios, A to B and E to F, are the same ratio with the same ratio, C to D. What we're going to prove is that A is to B just as E is to F. We're going to begin by taking equal multiples of all the antecedents here. So we're going to have the magnitudes G, H, and K be equal multiples of A, C, and E respectively. And furthermore, we're going to take equal multiples of all the consequents. So we're going to have the magnitudes L, M, N be some other equal multiples of B, D, and F respectively. Now, having been given that A is to B just as C is to D, we know by definition 5.5 that we can say something about the equal multiples of their terms. So that if G is greater than L, H will be greater than M. If G is equal to L, then H will be equal to M. And if G be less than L, then H will be less than M. Right, this follows because we have equal multiples taken of the first and third, namely G and L, and other equal multiples taken of the second and fourth, namely H and M. So by definition 5.5, we can say this about their equal multiples. Again, by definition 5.5, we know that because C is to D, just as E is to F, if H be greater than M, then K will be greater than N. If H be equal to M, then K will be greater than N. And if H be less than M, then K will be less than N. Again, this is because we have equal multiples H and M taken of the first and the third, namely C and E, and other equal multiples K and N taken of the second and fourth, namely D and F. Now, we notice that if G is greater than L, H will be greater than M. But also that if H is greater than M, then K will be greater than L, which means we can actually cut out the middle term and say directly that if G is greater than L, K will be greater than N. And by similar reasoning, if G be equal to L, then K will be equal to N. And if G be less than L, then K will be less than N. So is sort of like cutting out the middle term is, it makes sense, right? If A causes B and B causes C, then you can practically say that A causes C. And that's all we're doing here. If G is greater than L, H will be greater than M, and because if H is greater than M, then K will be greater than N, we can say directly that if G is greater than L, K will be greater than N, and likewise, if G be equal to L, then K will be equal to N, and if G be less than L, then K will be less than N. But knowing that G and K are equal multiples of A and E respectively, right, we made G and K that way, and also that L and N are equal multiples of B and F respectively, again, because we made them that way, we can use definition 5.5 in the reverse order. So because we have this situation about the equal multiples of A, E, B, and F, we can thus say that as A is to B, so E is to F. Now this is what we set out to prove, which means we are done with the proposition, therefore, etc., Q, E, and D. Now, if you're going to remember any proposition from Book 5, it better be this one. This one is crucial to understanding the trajectory of not only the rest of Book 5, but also the rest of the elements. This is one of the most commonly used propositions in the entirety of the text. So if you remember any prop, it should be this one. The common notion one of ratios is how my old teacher used to explain it to me, right? Because we have two ratios which are equal to the same ratio, which means they're equal to each other. Now, explaining it that way then warrants the question why Euclid didn't simply use common notion 1. And the reason for that is, it's a little complicated. So common notion 1, things which are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. Now, a ratio isn't exactly a thing so much as it is a comparison of things. And so not being a thing, it's then not included in what common notion 1 applies to, which is why this prop is much simpler than one might expect the common notion 1 of ratios to be. So that's why this prop exists. Other than that, I've got nothing to say about this proposition, so I'll end the video here and move on to 512.